Lightweight, lightweight, baby.
Hey, how's it going? This is Danny from Made of Metal, and it happened. One of the biggest weekends in the lightweight strength calendar to date. We had the double header we had on Saturday the 22nd of July, Britain's Strongest Man under 80 kilograms, and we had on Sunday the 23rd of July, the first ever Kaos Classic under 90 kilogram Invitational. In this video, we're going to be talking about Britain's Strongest Man under 80 kilograms. The Kaos Classic will be reviewed in a separate video, so let's get right into it. 15 of the strongest under 80 kilogram athletes from across the UK and Ireland descended upon the Ansdell Arena in Lytham, St Anne's to battle it out for the title of Britain's Strongest Man under 80 kilograms. At last year's competition in 2022, Dean McVie narrowly missed out on a podium spot, so comes into this year's competition laser focused on one goal, but it would not be an easy ride. Standing in his way, the likes of the world's strongest twins, Joe and Tim Daglish, and last year's champion, Tommy Chivers, hoping to retain that title. So what happened? Let's find out. The setting of this competition was really reflective of the grandeur of the title of Britain's Strongest Man. We had a near capacity crowd in person, and the whole competition was live streamed across the globe via ADL Pro. It just goes to show that Britain's Strongest Man keeps going from strength to strength every year, in no small part thanks to Kaos Strength Promotions, whose crew was absolutely on point on the day. Any minor mishaps with the matting or any equipment malfunctions, the team were on it, sorted it to ensure a smooth and streamlined competition for the athletes with as little stress outside of the events as humanly possible. And those trophies, my God, which are enormous. I managed to actually get a hold of one of the trophies and just hold it for a bit. Something like 12 kilograms, so yeah, someone's going to need a very strong reinforced shelf to be able to display that as prominently as it deserves to be displayed. As for the events themselves, as I expected, this was a brutal competition, especially the back half, the farmers, the yoke into sandbag, the power stairs. The athletes were just sapped of all energy. You had usually dependable athletes on an event like a farmer's carry that were dropping the handles, some not even managing to complete the run, and same on the yoke into sandbag. We saw all sorts of different bar heights for the yoke. We saw low bars, we saw high bars. It didn't really seem to make too much of a difference, the height of the bar, because when you ran back and picked up that 110 kilogram sandbag, the carry back just seemed to drain the energy from so many athletes, and a surprising amount didn't actually manage to finish that event. This was brutal. We saw some walking wounded going into that final event, and one or two athletes actually had to pull out prior to that. But let's get right into it. Let's look at the podium for Britain's Strongest Man under 80 kilograms 2023. In third place, we have one half of the world's strongest twins, Tim Daglish. In second place, the other half of the world's strongest twins, Joe Daglish. And atop the mountain, first place with that giant trophy, Dean McVie. So in terms of predictions, I was 2/3 correct, and in order. I had Dean McVie to win, I had Joe Daglish in second, although I will admit that the choice of Joe Daglish was just one name over the other. So let's highlight some of these athletes and the amazing things they did in this competition. Starting with your winner, Britain's Strongest Man under 80 kilograms. I'm sure he's never going to get bored of saying that, Dean McVie. Dean played an absolute blinder all competition. He was confident log pressing without going beyond what he needed to do. He gave the 142 kilogram log a go. He did talk about going for that world record in the lead up to the competition, but it wasn't feeling quite right, so he did the smart thing and bowed out. He was solid as ever on the deadlift, with his weakest event being the sandbag carry, which he himself referred to as a damage limitation event. He very much favoured the final 3 events and did enough to secure the win, but it was no easy ride. It was tight for the podium right up until that final event, that power stairs. He needed to win his heat. He did, and you can see by his celebration just how much this title means to him. The world's strongest twins were, well, the world's strongest twins. They are the blueprint for consistency with not a weak event within them, and neither landing outside the top 5 on any event throughout the day. That's why one or both of them have made the podium at every major domestic competition for the past 2 to 3 years, and that shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. As expected, a strong showing on the deadlift for both, Tim taking the joint win with 9 reps and Joe with 8, tying with Dean McVie. Kyle Scott, the winner of the recent UKNS UK final, messaged me before the competition and asked whether I thought he was good enough to make the top 10. I said, yes, of course, the winner of the UKNS UK final. He said he was hoping for top 8. So hopefully he is over the moon to have landed 4th in this stacked competition and even took an event win on the final event, the power stairs. He hit the numbers he was hoping for, and despite a couple of slip-ups on the farmers and the yoke, that event win on the power stairs was almost 4 seconds quicker than second place. Kyle Scott is absolutely someone to keep an eye on at the upcoming Europe's Strongest Man and then the UKNS World Championships after that. As well as an irritating level of talent, he also has youth on his side, and I fully expect Kyle Scott to be one of the big names in the lightweight strongman scene in the next few years. Tommy Chivers made it through to the end of the competition in spite of a back injury that he picked up during the max log event. He managed to save a gnarly looking rep that had the log actually roll off the pads. Tommy could have walked away, but he reset, re-cleaned, and got the good rep. He also, in a surprise to no one, took the win on the farmer's carry with a blistering time of 16.3 seconds. That's 30 metres covered with 125 kilograms per hand in 16.3 seconds. Connor Cowans also did amazingly well on that farmer's carry, finishing second just behind Tommy Chivers, and equally impressive just because of the amount of athletes that were really struggling on this event. Connor had an amazing day. He was in 11th place after the log and the deadlift events and managed to finish 6th overall. And I suspected going into Britain's Strongest Man that we would be talking about one particular athlete afterwards, and Finley Mercer. What a competition this young man had. He is just a ball of energy, so fun to watch, like a Tasmanian devil of a strongman, and actually took a joint win on the axle deadlift for reps. You can just see the fire and the intensity when Finley is competing in an event. He was so fast on that yoke and sprinted so fast back to that sandbag, he actually slipped over. Once he has refined his technique and sort of learned when to unleash that energy, he is going to be so dangerous in this competition in a year or two's time. And Andrew Keys reclaims that max distance carry crown that momentarily slipped after the UKNS UK final. He carried a 135 kilogram Husserfeld sandbag for 104 meters. That is 20 meters more than second place. He went out on his own. He went out first. He had no benchmark to meet or exceed. He was the pace setter, and he set an unstoppable pace. One of the only athletes across the whole weekend to make the full 90 seconds. And honestly, given another 30 seconds, given another minute maybe, you know Andrew would have kept going. So there's just some of the performances from some of the athletes involved in Britain's Strongest Man. I know some of the lads that may have ended up near the bottom of the table, maybe a little bit disheartened, maybe some events didn't quite go their way. But this is Britain's strongest man. This was a heavy competition. This was a quick competition. The turnaround between events, thanks to the crew, the Kaos crew, was very, very quick. So to those that may be feeling a bit disheartened, a bit dejected, just work on what didn't go right on the day and come back next year stronger. I've no doubt that you will. Halfway through Britain's Strongest Man, we had an intermission where Tom Hibbert attempted the under 105kg log press world record. Unfortunately, he was unsuccessful, and in a social media post he made later that day, he suggested that that's him done as an athlete. He's going to focus his energy on being a coach. And have we also seen the final competition from one of the pillars of lightweight strongman, Dan Ashcroft? He didn't have the best showing at Britain's Strongest Man and was actually forced to pull out prior to the final event, the power stairs. I know he would have dearly loved that log press world record, and perhaps he can get it someday, but one thing is for certain, he has been such a huge influence on the lightweight strongman scene, and his legacy within it will be long lasting. So all in all, Britain's Strongest Man under 80kg 2023 was one of the highlights of the lightweight strongman competition calendar so far this year. You can catch up with it if you missed it by going to adlpro.live/chaos. I've been Danny from Made of Metal, and I will be back very soon with my Kaos Classic review. Until then, I'll see you soon.